So this is going to be a video about defining your own play spaces, your own systems within the GM Theater. This process is pretty much the same throughout all the sandboxes that you can use out there, up until a certain point. There is a point at which it veers off completely differently from the way I define systems to the way other sandboxes define systems. And having read the other sandboxes to a fairly decent extent, I can say that the differences there are, from the user point of view, quite big. In here you're able to define your system and everything to do with transitions, making sure that everything's clear off the screen, and all the other systems that would be unique to your space, like making gates and having them connect to other places. That's all dealt with externally. That's all dealt with by stuff that's already in the sandbox. In the other sandboxes, so far as I've read, that's not the case, and you have to do a little bit more work. That being said, the way I define sectors within the GM Theater is a little bit more complex, but that is to the end of having dense asteroids and controlling the flow of information so that you don't crash your server. Because if you try and load in an entire mission script of asteroids, if you try and load in an entire mission editor script of asteroids, nebulas, ships and all that all at once, it can hang the server for a little while and make your controls as a pilot or anything else unresponsive, which is not desirable as a sort of an outcome for a game. So I'll take you through that process. Anyway, let's move on. First of all, you want to concept your space. So I actually tried to shoot this video a little while, maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I concepted a space. Isn't it lovely? It's just a big ring of nebula, or nebulae. I can't get the plural for nebula in my mind consistently. I always say nebulas or nebulae, and nebulae I believe is correct. Anyway, big ring. And then it goes into the middle, and we have a ton of asteroids there, and we have this kind of thinner asteroid wave, as if we're in a bigger asteroid belt of some kind. And then we have all the oranges for trade lanes. And then I started detailing this sector because it's the one I was building at the time. This is a planet. It's called Danis, and we have a big sort of station. We have 2 weapons platforms because apparently this place is often attacked. And then we have another station right here. And I added a few things in afterwards when I was actually in the editor. So let's just, I guess, first of all, take this to the mission editor. So there we go. Use something like this. I don't like to use something like this. I prefer to just code straight out, but this can be quite useful if you're a visual kind of person, which I am, but it seems not to work for me so well. So here you can see, as per my concept, this sector here is the one we're working on. If I go back to there, it doesn't look too bad. We got this corner of asteroids from this corner here. It's not quite as circular as I would like. And then we've got a bunch of this nebula stuff that's kind of like this. Gets thicker here, gets thinner here. You can see I haven't got a trade lane in yet because there's no mechanism for making a trade lane in the editor, so you kind of have to work in 2 layers here. You make the basic map and then move it into the GM Theater, or your GM Sandbox framework. And then we have all the stations. So I've just got them with basic names here: neighboring station, main station, nebula station, and we have a mine there. The mine is for the position of my planet. And if I go back to here, you can see that. Alright, so having done this, and first of all, using this is not too hard at all. You just right click when you want to make something new, pick what it is. So say it's a station. Here we have a station. And then if you want to move it around, you move your mouse around and then press space to move it around, like that. Okay, and then you can hold space if you want to give it this kind of pseudo click and drag look. And the same is true of nebulae to a certain extent. If you right click, new nebulae there, and you can see it's tiny. We've got information on the side here which allows us to mess around with its scaling. So radius, I'm going to give it a radius of 10,000. There we go, much bigger radius there. Counts, let's give it 100. and then give it a random range, because that's what's making it so circular at this point. 5,000 random range. There we go. So you can mess around. Oh, I just messed that up entirely. 5,000 like that. Cool. And then you can hold space or just press space to move your nebula around and blend it in with things to make things look dense. Okay, so now you've got the controls down for that. You can start making your system, or your sector rather. And once you're done with that, you just save it. You kind of close that layer. No, and then you save it here. You can save it to wherever you want. I know I've saved mine on the desktop, so I'm gonna come out there. Test mission right there. Okay, and it opens up my text editor. I actually already had it in here as well, so you can see I've got test mission there and test mission here. Alright, and looking at it, we've got a bunch of stuff within the start event here, which is like, you know, creating the player, setting the skybox, all that stuff I do not need. What I need is that stuff, all the create stuff. So let's talk about, now that we've got our space and it's very basic, let's talk about a system. So I'm going to try and do as much of the process right now as I can, rather than just showing you an example. So your best bet is to go to an already existing system and do a little bit of copy and paste. So here we have the actual Halvorez system that I've got, but I'm going to, like the system attributes, this event here controls the size of the system, so I'm going to make it again here just so we can go through it. So I'm going to take, in fact, let's call it a different name. Let's call it Flotala. Let's call it the Flotala system, and then we put that there as well. Now, current system number equals Flotala. Now, that doesn't obviously make sense since this whole thing works on numbers, but you can tell that this is, hopefully you can tell, this is defined somewhere as a number. So let's go find that. Oh, in fact, I'm already there. Jesus. Okay. So you can see I've got systems here. Blank is 0, Dionysus equals 1. All of those are corresponding to numbers. So let's add a new number for Flotala. Let's make it 6, and then change the number of systems to 6 as well. All right. Save. So now we have Flotala defined as 6. We can actually put Flotala wherever we want and then change the number later on if we really want to. Alright. So current system number is Flotala. If we're in that system, then we're good. And if we've been asked to refresh the sector attributes, which happens on occasion, the script does it, and you can also manually do it in the menus, then we check to see if we've defined our sector parameters, or they've been reset at all. And if that's not the case, then we set them. So for Flotala, I want to make it a 10 by 10 system. So this system edge size is essentially what defines this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, oh, I'm moving trade lines. Great. It defines the edge of the perimeter here. Now in Halvorez I have these 4 sectors, and 4 by 4, and then the rest of the space is undefined, so we can go out and explore and do things in the space that is not always going to be the same, and that's kind of useful. And the way I do that is defining this as a not by 4 by 4 system, but an 8 by 8 system. So we end up with a load of spare space, and all of the rest of that space is generated by the procedural space generator. So I'm going to set my system edge size as 10 for Flotala. So we have a 10 by 10 system instead of an 8 by 8 system, because it's easier to work the maths. And let's say in this space here we have all of the variables which can be set so that you can kind of put constraints on what should appear in your random space. So say I want my I want Flotala to be completely planetless. Let's see. Then here we go. We've got defined planet sector planet number 0. I just want to make sure that every time we're generating a random sector, we have no planets, unless I say otherwise, which I can within the sandbox. So we've got that sorted out. Who is the faction? Who's our controlling faction? Now, if you don't have any of these and you want more, perhaps there's an entire list of them right here under the systems tabs in the start event. I know this is a lot of stuff to look through, but if you just type in the name of a system, you'll probably find this at some point, and maybe take note of the line number. So, sector generation event variables, we have defined. Everything that says defined before it, these are the variables that you want to be setting here. So we can define things like the ship number, we can define the asteroid number to, down to a specific number. We can define whether there is conflict, we can define the modifier for conflict. Yeah, you can do quite a lot of stuff. So I am going to set specifically that there are going to be 4 ships in every single, it seems like it would be an arbitrary number, but 4 ships. So sector ship number is going to be 4. So there are going to be 4 ships of the controlling faction in every single random sector we make. That's what that means. And obviously you could make this a random number. It wouldn't randomize every time, but you could make it a random number. Or when it came to actually using it, like this, you could actually take it at that point. Where is it? Ship number. Yeah, ship number. You could make it like a random between 0 or between 1 and the defined sector ship number. So you could randomize it that way, making sure you've got a maximum like that. It's entirely up to you that way, I suppose. But yes, here we go. Faction. Now, who's going to own this Flotilla system? Let's say Arvonians. So Arvonian is 6. Now, if you're not sure what these are, there's documentation within the mission. So cheat sheet. Oh no, wrong thing. Not the cheat sheet. It would be, yeah, utilities documentation. So here we go. In every single one of the spawners that requires a faction number, you can see we have faction, all the numbers corresponding to the factions. These are actually, there's more of them now. There's Biomech and Zimni, which is 11. So Biomech 10, Zimni 11. But that's actually in the instructions as you go through the menu. Anyway, I'll update that. So we're back to here. I want to make this Flotilla system an Arvonian system, and I want to make the conflict faction, the one that is fighting them, I want to make that it's an Arvonian sector that is being attacked by raiders. So 8 is raiders. If we go back to the thing there, you can see raiders number 8. Alright. And then infrastructure, I want it to be random, and I want security level to be random as well, so I'm just going to take those out. Okay, so we're going to have a completely varying security level and infrastructure across my random space. And we definitely have no planets. So that's what that does. We set the size of a system and the attributes of the system, if you would like, hence system attributes. And then we leave that alone. We now have our base event for the space that we're moving around in. So now we want to set an event for uncharted space. So we can see we have an event here, uncharted space, and it's checking to see something very specific, and I'll go through that in just a second. So grab that all and put it under here. And then take your system number, sorry, system name, or system number for that matter, and replace it everywhere that it says the other system that you're not wanting to mess around with. I don't know why it says ships and stuff here, because that should be totally different, but this event is for the using of all the defined sector attributes. So if ever we are in a sector number that is not defined, and in Flotilla, I'm going to define sector 1 at this point. So you can imagine that you're going to have a bunch of other events that are asking, they're waiting for you to have defined something. Sorry, let's try and rephrase that. You're going to have a bunch of other events that are going to be listening to see whether you're in a sector that you have defined. If you are not in a sector you have defined, this event is going to be listening to see whether that's the case. So if I had defined sector number 1, 2, 5, 6, and 8, I would, like that, I'd be 1. If it's not sector 1, not sector 2, not sector 5, not sector 6, and not sector number 8, because I know, I know all of those sectors have specific content this is going to be the case for if the sector you've gone into has not been defined and is needing to be defined by the sector generator. Then move forward. So again, that doesn't need to be there. Then we set the current sector to the requested sector number, and then when current sector number equals this same thing, so if current sector number is not any of the defined sectors, I'm going to have to change that to current sector number, not requested sector number. Haha! And ship gen number equals 1. Now, every time a sector is generated, an event is called that is like this. So create sector calls an event, which I'm fine viewing just now. There we go, create sector. This is right at the top of the sector and system and sector framework, which is where you are right now. If we have called create sector, no matter what's happened, it's waiting to see whether everything has been cleared off the screen, which gets triggered when you change a sector. It's checking to see whether it has been called, obviously. Then you reset both of them, do a little a delay timer, kick it off, and then we set ship generation number and sector generation number, event number, to 1. So this is essentially just kicking everything off, if you like. If this was a carpet, if your sector was a carpet, you'd be kicking it and it'd be rolling down the stairs, yeah? Alright, so current system number. If current system number equals... Sorry, that's not right at all. It needs to be current sector number that I do there. So, let's do that instead. Whoop. Dodged a bullet. So, current system number equals flotilla. A flotilla, rather. And current sector number is not equal to any of the defined sectors, so this could be a very long list if you define a lot of sectors, and ship generation event number is number 1. Then we're checking to see whether the sector generator is doing anything, and if it's not, we set all these variables for the sector generator using all the defined sector variables, which some of them could be randoms, and then generate sector gets set to 0. And that triggers it off. And then we have generated a sector. Nothing else needs to be done. This is going to handle all of the random space within our system. So I'm only going to define sector 1, so I'm going to take 2, 5, 6, and 8 out of that list on both. Okay. There we go. So now I have the attributes and the random sectors defined for flotilla. Let's define an actual sector. Let's define where there it is, yeah. So we have Alvarez main sector. You can see here it's requesting a specific sector number. So this is what we need. I'm going to copy these 2 events because one of them is for ship definition. So going back up, all I've done there again is I've copied the the definition for the ships, and I've obviously copied the trigger for the actual sector. So if sector change state is 2 and current system number is Alvarez and that we're in a particular requested sector, I'm obviously going to change all that. So here we go, flotilla. There it goes. So you can label these a bit better if you want to. Make sure that you're doing things like comments, flotilla defined sectors, something like that. Nope, yeah, great. So we take flotilla. Alvarez gets replaced with flotilla. Probably a bad practice to do that. Make sure I actually take the right one. Yep, it's spelled the same. Alright, and now if I am with this one, bye-bye. If the sector is changing and the system number is flotilla and the requested sector number is sector number 1, then we set current sector number to requested sector number. And then do the create event number. We do the create sector event so that we can set these 2 off. Kick the carpet down the stairs, so to speak. Alright, flotilla. So we're gonna... Now this is the event which is going to spawn some stuff for this system. In fact, no, let's demonstrate this in a slightly different way. Let's take all this stuff out. Boom. Alright, let's use sector generation event number. So, at this point, we are going to just chuck in our test code, or test mission code, because it by itself is a comprehensive system. You know, we're going to have stations in there which are called main station, nebula station, neighboring station, and all that. We're going to have nebulae, we're going to have asteroids, we're going to have planets. So it'll be fine for now. So let's get it in there. So if we're in the right system and we're in the right sector, and sector event number is that, then I want to do all of this. Take all that stuff that we worked on earlier on and put in. So I'm going to do that, all of that. Now a very important thing is that we finish the sector correctly. Now, in order to finish the sector, you just need to set one variable to a certain number, and it's so that the rest of the scripts can listen for the finishing of the sector being generated. And that is not here. Oh, there it is there. And it's in the wrong place. It should be under there. It should be that one. So transition state equals 2. That's what you need to put at the end of your sectors. So going back up to this massive body of stuff. There we go. So when we're transitioning, we've changed systems or sectors or whatever. The transition state gets set to 1, and at which point, it's through the process of generating the sectors. You need to set it manually to 2 to let everything else know that we've finished transitioning. That's pretty much all that is about. We're going to make a big gap there. So we have now taken all that information that we had and put it into an event which is triggered off when we go into Sector 1 of Flotilla. Now, we're not quite there yet. Well, we could be quite there yet. I could actually go and visit this if I restart the mission. So let's do that. There we go. Now, hopefully you can understand that I'm recording. There's like 6 systems within this. It's running a little slow at this point. So I've got comms there. That's fine. Let's do that. All right, I'm in Dionysus. And whoa, my gate is spinning around like crazy. Very strange. Let's stop that from happening. There we go. Alright. So now we're here. Let's move to that space we've just defined. So quick jump. We know that Flotilla is system number 6. However, it is not on here. Which would be nice if we can get on here, right? So we could do that. Let's make that a very quick fix just now. We'll move to our new system, which has got no event, which I need to sort as well. So let's sort out all of those things. We can't go there until we've sorted the events which help us go there. So let's take Flotilla, the name, copy it, and then go back up to Alvarez. And this is just a good thing to go through every now and again to make sure you're not missing anything. So here's Alvarez. I have Flotilla defined somewhere next to where Alvarez is. Here's something I don't have. So this is creating the input pad for the system overlay, the one we were just looking at. So let's do that. Tarantus. In fact, I realized something. There's a number in here that I can change. Alright. Flotilla. There it is. So I've created Flotilla the button, however I've made it at the same location as Tarantus, obviously. So I need to make number spacing into 3. Yeah, I need to change that to 3, because this is going to be the 3rd button on the 2nd row. So it's going to take a little bit of thinking. I'm sorry I can't make that any more at this point any clearer. Just imagine a number pad and then have a look at these. So we've got spacing times 1. It's not incredibly helpful, but number pad width, the numbers, so that's 1 button plus the spacing times 2. Yeah, not incredibly straightforward at all. There are other templates for number pad overlays that you can copy from. There's actually one that's a full 9 buttons. So if you ever want an extra button for your overlay, like this one here, so here we have button 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I could have just copied Arvonian, the button, and it would have given me the right location. But I chose to go the wrong way. Make sure you have it also in the deleted parts as well. So let's put Flotilla there and here. So everywhere that Alvarez is, put Flotilla essentially. And then let's continue looking for Alvarez down. Here we have on, oh, this is the old menu system. You don't have to add it here, but you can if you want. Here's a good one. This is the update for when a ship or your players move to a different system. This is the comm message they get from the nav computer. So like that. So if they move, current system is Flotilla, then the ship nav log says Flotilla system, and then they get the location in the Flotilla system they are in. And I'll show you that in a second. In fact, no, I can't show you just now because we're not there. So Flotilla system has been added. Continuing on down, Alvarez as well. So we got one here. This is for the older version of things. Put Flotilla in there and Flotilla in there. There we go. And this is why we define the number of systems, so we don't have to do any more, back end work. You put it into the information feedback, because this is the message you get when you try to set a system. When you're selecting a system, if you don't know what systems are, you can go into the instructions and it'll give you this list. And then Alvarez, here we have an event for Alvarez to throw you into a certain location. So this needs to be copied. And let's call it Flotilla. And then input system, if the input system is Flotilla, then we want to move all of the ships to a certain location. And for the sake of let's have a look at the position of one of these stations. The main station position is 20,945, so that's X, right? Yeah. So there we go, 20,945. Let's just make it 21,500. There we go, 21,500. I usually like to stagger ships to make sure they don't crash into one another when they're there, but right now I just don't care. And then the Z position, 21.5. That's cool. That's cool. I'm okay with that. So we change all the Z positions there, and this is a way to make them not crash into one another. So I'll leave that there. So when we have selected Flotilla from the system select menu, this is where all the player ships will jump to, and we will be in a nice sort of place relative to the main station when we're in the sector. Continuing on though, Alvarez, now we're back down to the system attributes. So we've now done everything to put our system into this sandbox. So let's restart. Make sure I'm recording. Yep, I'm recording. Cool. Oh, we're spinning slower this time. That's a very strange thing. I don't usually get that. Oh, we're running real slow. Okay, everything's loaded in. Toggle menu. Now, quick jump. Sector select. Oh, Flotilla's over Tarantis. So I didn't do my job properly. Let's go back up to where that button would be. Alvarez. There it is. That's the button. So Flotilla. I'm going to go back up to the Arvonian button and steal the positioning information for that. Where is Flotilla? There it is. Let's put it there. So put Flotilla there and then delete that. Cool. So now we should be good. My bad. Why are you rotating? That's really annoying me. I'm going to have to find out why that is. Doesn't normally happen. There you go. Okay. So let's go back into the menu and quick jump. System. There it is. Now we get a Flotilla there. So, Flotilla. Press it, confirm. Now we're moving to the Flotilla system. And now that event is jumping in Oh. Oh. What system, what sector are we actually jumping into here? Because I have a feeling we're just jumped into sector 10. Did I miss that? Let's go back up to Alvarez. Here we go. So Alvarez, input system. There we go. That's my problem. So we've just jumped into the Flotilla system at sector 10. And that's not where we want to be. But you can see that it has given us an Arvonian sector that has got nebulae. And it has ships. Let's move this. And we have an Arvonian munitions depot. So instead of going to the requested sector number of sector 10, let's go to sector 1 like I said I should have. Alright. So make sure, yeah, as you do this, you make sure you're setting them to the right place. Requested system number is the input system, or Flotilla I suppose. And then requested sector number is the sector number you intend to start at when you jump to the system. There we go, end of there. Start game. Do it one more time. Still spinning. Jesus. Alright. System select, Flotilla. Go. And here we are. And now you can see there are a bunch more nebulae than we really need. And the reason for that, like I said, I think I mentioned anyway, when the mission editor, when you started the mission editor and you're putting stuff in, the amount of nebulas, the amount of like clouds that you see on the screen don't really reflect what you see in game. So this is far too dense for my liking. So I would, thin out the actual nebulae by jumping back down to my thing there, and then just taking like halving these perhaps. So 150, going down to 75, and then 15, and that would probably do me. I don't know why I have 10 mines, because I only need one, but hey. So there we have the sector that you generated. You just jumped into it, and it's very basic at this point. We still have a mine in place of the planet, and we still have neighboring station and all that there, so you could change the name of your stations and everything. Now, if you wanted to transition from this sector and have it all disappear, you need to put all of these names in the kill code. So, I'll show you what I mean by that. If you just type in kill code as a search, there we go, kill code event. Kill all things. I have it kind of sectioned off a little bit, but first of all we have the asteroids, mines and nebulas getting destroyed, or nebulae. We have specific ships, and I don't know, oh yeah, these are from the previous sandbox. And we have stations, so we have all the stations that we have in the Dionysus system, plus a couple that are in Zorilya. And then we have a couple of specific objects that have been spawned. So if you've got stations, you would just add them in stations. So let's just destroy, oh, hello, like that. Nebula station, and then continue on, so on and so forth, main station. So you've got everything in there. That means that when you transition out of that place, you will no longer have anything on the screen. Otherwise, you end up having to delete things manually when you transition out of a sector like this. But this is not finished. We have just chucked in a space, and you might be okay with this, and that's fine. Say you wanted this space here to have ships in it, rather than, you hadn't defined ships, you wanted it to have random ships kicking around in it. Let's have a look at an event structure here. So we've got the ship generation number. Let's use that. Let's take these 3 events. In fact, let's take these 3 events and put them up here. So I'm going to put ships first, because this is actually sector. Ships first. Oh, Jesus. There we go. Alright, and now we're waiting for Alvarez still here apparently, so let's wait for a different system. My mouse is messed up. There we go. Alvarez. Bye-bye. Alright, and we're also waiting for the wrong sector number, so make sure we're waiting for sector number 1. There we go. So now, in Flotilla's main sector, there's going to be a couple there are going to be a couple of fleets that are in random positions, and they're going to be civilian. We're going to have a sort of utility fleet on the civilian side, and it's going to be friendly. So if you wanted to, like, if this code means nothing to you at this point, again, having a look in the utility documentation, you might get a bit of an understanding of what I mean by that. It's all broken down here. But if that still isn't very useful to you, there are a bunch of variables that can be set specifically rather than doing it in code form like that. I'll give you an example. If I was to go GM, oh no, I'm looking at the ship information. I should be looking at the fleet information. There we go, fleet gen codes. So they're not there. I need to move them, put them there. So if I do fleet, GM fleet, GM fleet type. First of all, when I type that in, I want to make sure that it's actually something. So I'm going to count how many of those are there. And it exists. So GM fleet type. Let's have a look back at the utilities documentation. Fleet types. We have 1, 2, and 3. So maybe we say it's a combat fleet. Let's have a bit of defense in this sector. Let's make it a combat fleet 3, and then we no longer need the type. And if you want to, also you can go fleet faction, which again should be here. Oh no, race. That makes me worried. Does fleet faction actually exist, or is it fleet race? Nope, it's fleet faction. I like to sort that out as well. And then we're gonna have an Arvonian faction, and on the Arvonian side, so fleet side. Oh, that's not right. Okay, so this in code form would normally be 3, 0, 6, and then 6, which is unfortunate because the code parser only takes 7 digits, and I really need 8 to handle this properly. So avoid using the codes at this point in time. Just do that. Okay, push 0, which is normally random, but you've defined specific attributes for this fleet. So it's going to be a combat fleet. Actually, I want to make this a utility fleet. There we go. So it's a utility fleet of faction and size. And if you want to set exactly how many ships there are, use fleet count. Like that. So I'm going to make it a fleet count of 3. So there are going to be 3 ships that get spawned. I'm going to make sure that's right as well. So Control F and then Control T for count. Or Alt T, sorry, for count. There we go. Fleet count is 3. So let's spawn in and we'll see. I really should just copy that to this one as well. And then for this one's going to be a combat fleet, so I'm going to make that, I'm going to give that no specific number. Oh, wrong thing, click on. There we go. So, now we're going to have the same sector with some stuff in it, some ships in it. Quick jump. System. What's up? Go. And here we see some Arvonians spawning in to populate the sector. Getting a lot confused and just turning around, of course. So we have less asteroids this time because I halved the amount of, half the density of each one of these. Nebulae. We have less density in the clouds, which is very useful. Looks a little bit nicer, but you can still obviously tweak it as much as you want. And then we still have these called neighboring stations and stuff like that. So that might be to your liking. Still, for me, it kind of it pops in pretty well, but it could cause a bit of a lag, especially if you have more content. Depends on how you want to do this. And we also have asteroids up the top there, which are not 3D. These are all on one plane, and that makes me sad. So we have added a few ships in. We have just got the bare bones of the actual sector. Let's have a look about staggering the spawning of things like the asteroids. So planet, I need to put a planet in there as well. So here's a planet right there. only one planet. So we have a station that's getting spawned here. Yeah, let's in fact, I'll do this piece by piece so you can sort of see the breakdown. But let's move it to stations. So this is sector gen event number, and it's going to be, I suppose, for the sake of spawning these continuously, it's going to be number 2. So I need to move transition state, getting set to 2 now. I need to move it all the way to the end. There we go. And I need to change these actually being spawned, and well, where they're being spawned. So flotilla again, however, is not the sector this time. It's flotilla. Keep saying flotilla. There we go. And you know what? I'm actually just going to say this is going to be 100. So this will never spawn. This whole event will never spawn. It's just going to be here as a reference for me from now on. So stations. Let's take the stations. We already have what I have called Cryo Outpost and Dana Spaceport. So Cryo Outpost is the Nebula station. So imagine you've just taken that, you've copied it into here, you've changed the information as you want it to a particular side, a particular kind of station, and then you're good. And then the same with Dana Spaceport, which is the main station here. Boom. Alright, and then next ones, we have 2 stations that are being spawned with the station creator. And these are, if you go into the utility documentation, stations, these are weapons platforms, as far as I remember. So 24, so you can see the structure if you look in the utilities documentation. So the structure is hull for 2, class for 2, race for 2, and side for 1. Alright, so the hull, 24. We have a Torgoth base. There, 24 is that first one there. We have a Torgoth base. We have class number 33, which is a weapons platform. So it's a Torgoth hull being used. It's being called a weapons platform, and it is on the civilian side at this point. So I actually want to make it not civilian. I want to make it Arvonian, which is why I've put 06 there instead. And then I want to make it not my side, but the Arvonian side. Now, you might be wondering why it is. I mentioned obviously the code parser right now only deals with 7 characters. I could put an 8th character in there and it would be fine, just haven't got around to it. But the reason I had to use 2 characters for the race is because now we have Biomech and Zimni. They are 10 and 11, and so you can't represent 10 and 11 with 1 character, which is unfortunate. Anyway, that will now create a Torgoth base that is called a weapon platform on the Arvonian side. I'll create 2 of them in fact, and they'll flank the main station as per their locations there. Alright, and nothing else will spawn at this point. So that's the neighbouring stations dealt with. So let's jump into that. Quick jump. Flotilla. Boom. So, Dana Spaceport and the 2 weapon platforms. And my god, this is running slow. Oh, shit, I'm getting shot at. Because I'm not an Arvonian. You racists. Let's move away. Okay. Oh, Dana Spaceport is also not Arvonian, which is why they're shooting at that. Great. So now we have the stations, but none of the environment is there anymore because we haven't obviously spawned it. We're going to change that up in a second. So if you want to start making things like 3D asteroids, let's move on. I think we had planet next. Actually, we had a planet. So station, we have created the stations. The next one is planet. So let's use the planet one there. And no, I realize I'm copying and pasting here. You're obviously not going to have the luxury all the time. But be aware that when you're doing this, you need to change the sector event number to increments each time. Okay, that's what this block down at the bottom here, increments. I need to make sure that it's listening for the right thing and to step forward each time. We need to move the transition state to the end. You could obviously wait until the complete end and then move it at the end. So now we're just here waiting to see that we're in sector 1 of Flotilla. If sector gen event number is before, and we're not creating a planet already. If we're not creating a planet, then all of these attributes for this planet get spawned, get set. So we're giving it a specific name. So in the name generator, name number 6 is Danis. And again, this is in the this information here somewhere. There it is. Yeah. So in number 6, Danis. We have types as well. So if we go back to the right thing to look at, visual number 10. So I don't know why I've called it types. It should be called visual. Number 10 is an iron planet. And then after that we have... Oh, hello. What have we done? No, planet type, yeah. We have visual. So this is the visual. The planet type is down here. So we have planet, moon, or planet with rings. I don't know why I split them up that way, but I did. So this is going to be a planet with rings. It's going to be scale 15, which is pretty large. And if you're looking for sort of guidance on that, here is the whole block of stuff that you can set for a planet. Ring radius, the spin rate and all that. Or you can leave it to be completely random, but if you want a persistent planet, you're going to want to set all these things. Pitch and then spin of -10. Then you set the ring radius if you want to make that specific as well. Give it a position and set off the generator. So now we have a planet called Danis in our system. Next thing. Alright, now we're at asteroid fields. So let's bring in both asteroid fields. So you can see that the structure for each one of these as you're looking at the events is pretty much identical. It's just a case of if we're in the right system, we're in the right sector, and sector gen event number equals the next step in your rolling of the carpet. Then check to see if we're using the thing we want to use. If we're not using it, awesome. Set all the things, set all the attributes, and then start using the thing we want to use, and then increment the event number. So here we have if we're not spawning asteroids, we're gonna set up an asteroid cloud, I guess. Not cloud, an asteroid field. There we go. Set up an asteroid field with a radius and range as you want to set, with a certain amount of asteroids in there. And if you look back at the test mission, now we wrong one. Oh no, right one. Now we have dealt with all the stations. Oh no, I was doing this in here, wasn't I? Of course I was. So now we've dealt with all the stations. We've just chucked both asteroids in there, so that's the equivalent of obviously me copying and pasting the information into each one of the attribute blocks here. So the X and the Y, the radius and range. Once that's done, the mines, that was the planet position. So yeah, when we got to putting the planet in, where we wanted that to be was set by the mines. And now the nebulas, or the nebulae. That's going to be up next. So we've got the asteroids in there. We haven't moved the transition state yet because we're going to do it right at the very end. And then for each one of the nebulas or nebulae, let's take this whole block and I'll explain why there's some empty ones here in a second. Oh, have I gone too far? No, I haven't. There. Okay, so let's move transition state. No, let's not move it yet because I'm not completely finished. So now we have a sector which has the planet. It has like ships, it has planets, it has the asteroid fields in the right place. We have this event here which spawns all of the nebulae. So going back up to where I've stored all this information, we just have nebulae left. Yeah, 4 of them there, and all I've done is take them and change the count on them. So now I can delete this event because it does absolutely nothing. It's meant to be waiting for the sector event number to be 100. It's never going to happen. So I've used all that information. No need for it to be there anymore. Okay. Now we are waiting a little bit here. You can see that after this event number, we are waiting for a 2-second increment to go on, to go off, and then to go on again. That means that we're at least waiting for 2 seconds. And the reason for that is because the next thing that we're bringing in is the trade lane. And the trade lane works by deleting stuff that's already there. And so it needs to wait for it to be there first, hence the delay. So I'm going to bring that in, and you can see at the end we've also got another little station which is to do with the trade lane. So bring in the trade lane. There we go. Boom. I think I put that in the right place, didn't I? I think I did. Except everything is listed for Halvarez, so I need to change all of that. So Flotilla rather. Flotilla, wherever it says Halvarez can die at this point in time. Make sure we're waiting for the right system and the right sector. So you can see doing this can be a little bit more of a tedious process, but the results in terms of control and the experience for the players being a little bit more consistent, with like not losing control of the ship every time you transition from a hefty sector to another hefty sector. It's quite useful. That being said, the rate at which things load in, if you have a slightly slower server, can sometimes be a problem. So, you know, it's up to you. If you want to load everything in all at once and have a small moment of hanging, or just, you know, scale back the density of your sectors, that might be a way of doing it. Anyway, so we've got that. Now we've got the trade lane coming in. So after this delay, after this sort of waiting, where is it? Yeah, here it is. After the 2-second increment stepping, then we have the trade lane coming in because sector event number is going to be incremented to 11. We're waiting to see if we're using, here it is again, that same formula. Are we using the trade lane generator? No. Then set everything and use the trade lane generator. And then it checks again after incrementing. Are we waiting to use the trade lane generator? No. So we create the trade lane, another trade lane. So this one goes from way off on the left hand side of the screen and quite low up into where Danis spaceport is, and then this one goes from way up at the top of the screen to Danis spaceport. So there's roughly Danis spaceport. So there's kind of this L shape going on with the trade lane, and you can see that this one here, 45,000 to 20,000. This is a station that is right on that corner of the trade lane, and it is spawned as what is that? 12. It's spawned as a science base, and 30, which is a trading no, it's not, it's a traffic control. So we have a science base being used as traffic control for the civilians. So it shouldn't be, it should be Arvonian, and it should be on the Arvonian side. There we go. And now that we have our, well, I already had it there because it was copy and paste it. Transition state is equal to 2. I had to make sure the transition state isn't anywhere else in this flow, so that it doesn't accidentally say that sector's finished when it's not. And that's the end of that. We've got our trade lane in there, and so it's a little bit more work, but if you have the time and it, you know, you can see that it's going to help the flow of the gameplay when you're flying into sectors and remaining with control of your ship, then it's worth doing. Oh my god, that spinning station is annoying the crap at me. I need to find out why it's doing that. Alright. Flotilla. Moving into there. And we'll see it loading in now. I must say I kind of did it the wrong way around. I've loaded up all the stations and things before the environment. It really should be the other way around. So, there we are. And if I move over without being shot to death, over here, boom, you can see that the asteroids and things are quite dense, and let's go to the main screen. There we go. Quite dense, and 3D, which is the main point here. So let's go into warp, which is terribly irresponsible. Alright. So when you're beginning to develop, you might find a happy medium for the way you would start like generating sectors to make them faster or slower. I haven't really taken a pass at trying to make it more efficient at sort of generating sectors, because my focus was making sure the game didn't crash. And to be honest with you, it gets a little, like, Artemis is limited, especially when trying to develop at this level, you know, far away from the actual core of the game. So it is what it is, and if you can do better with it, I would love to see that, honestly. Please do. So this is one sector. Now, as discussed before, we've defined one sector. Out with this, we have Arvonian space, which is likely to be attacked by... Oh, I've just destroyed myself. Let's not damage myself. Let's put my beams back together. There we go. We have Arvonian space, which is likely to be attacked by... Or unlikely to be attacked, but, you know, possible that it'll be attacked by... I believe it was the Zimni? Oh, no, Raiders. It was Raiders. So let's change that. Let's fly through to a different sector. Let's go north. And you can see that Dana Spaceport and Cryo Outpost are still here because I haven't put them in the kill code. So that step I mentioned about the kill code, remember to do that. Alright, here we are flying into a fairly sparse sector. There's a missile there, it's just disappeared. With very little going on because this could be either a clear sector, a mixed sector, a nebula sector, or an asteroid sector. So we have a sector with our munitions depot, dreadnought, a command post in there, and we have a couple of cargo and transport ships. But nothing else in this sector. So this might not make sense for you. You might want to make sure there is always going to be something here. So you would restrict it making a clear sector. Sorry. So let's move north again. And now we're going to start getting an asteroid sector of some kind. Not much going on in here. And again, this is running quite slow compared to the way it runs normally because I'm recording. So you'll see I'm running all of this on the same machine, hence the speed. As soon as you put this on a dedicated server of any decent capabilities, you'll see a huge improvement in the performance. And there's obviously a lot of stuff running in the background where you can you've got the ability there to have all the stuff I've described in the previous videos to do with like wormhole customization and your tractor beam and things. So yeah, very little going on here. If you remember rightly, I defined specifically that there were going to be a certain amount of ships in a sector like this, didn't I? I think it was right up the top. Where is it? Yeah, here we go. Flotilla, there it is. Defined sector ship number is 4. So every time I'm going into these sectors, you'll notice I've got 4 ships. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's go up to the corner here. Oh, let's actually select me and press J. There we go. Oh, a bit of a nebula in this one. Good. And so I have an entire space, and as I'm transitioning, it's giving me an update with my nav log. Every time I'm transitioning, I started off in 01, which was the first sector. I then moved north into 11. I then moved north into 21. I've now moved northeast into 32. So you get this kind of line log every time you transition. You can turn it on and off if you really want to, but I kind of find it useful, and the players seem to. I think the players find it useful. We had a bit of confusion when we first started off with it, but yeah, quite useful. And I want now the next sector to be definitely a much more dense sector, because I've got plans in my story. You know, I'm doing a mission. I want to go environment here, procedural space. I want there definitely to be conflict, so I'm going to set conflict to 10, which is irresponsible. Because if you go to there and set conflict, or if you go to instructions, war zone. So I've already done that. I'm going to come back out. I'm going to set. I know I said the Raiders were going to be the conflict faction here, but I really want it to be instead. I want it to be Zimni, so I'm going to set it to 11. And in instructions, you can see Zimni is there. So I've pressed 11, confirm. Oh, that's me set. Bad, my bad. Let's do that again. Factions. Controlling faction is Arvonian. Enemy faction is 11 for Zimni. There we go. And then I need to change the station and ship number. So number of stations, I'm just going to leave that as 0, which is random. I think. No, random is -1. So there are actually going to be no stations. Number of ships, 16. Do that. And then I want there to be at least 1 planet as well. I want there to be a planet. So 1 for the planet number. and I want it to be a little bit more dense. I want it to be a sector type number 3, so it's going to be nebula, I think. Or is it asteroid? I think it's asteroid. Actually, let's do that again then. Type in density. It's getting towards the edge. Come on, type in density. Density 3. Oh no, I think I might have missed it. Anyway. So type, we've got a nebulous sector here. And if all goes well, we have a planet, which was specifically mentioned that we shouldn't have had planets because obviously I told it here not to define any planets. However, I just told it in the menu to define a planet. So we have planets. And now that we're flying in, it's spawning in a bunch of ships for the Arvonians. And then it should also spawn in a bunch of ships if we are indeed in conflict, which there's a very high chance we should be, of Zimni. There we go, Zimni ships. So now I on the fly, as I was flying through here, set up how this sector was going to appear to a certain extent. I just wanted a conflict between the Arvonians and the Zimnis. I couldn't help myself. And I wanted a planet, and I wanted it to be in a nebulous sector. And if you want to reset all that, you just press reset to default, and what that does is it sets refresh sector attributes to 1, and it'll refresh back to all these. So the next sector we go into will have a conflict value of 1. It will have the conflict race being Raider. It will have the ship number being 4. You know, it'll be spawning 4 ships again, so it won't take nearly as long as this sector has been to bring in. And it's still bringing in Zimni ships. Can't get over how slow this is running. Anyway, so that hopefully is illustrated to you how you can build your own spaces. Obviously, I'm not going to go through building an entire system. I've just, you know, showed you how to define it. You can just work from there. It can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be, and you have a lot of control over the space that you don't want to define between systems. And also, and I didn't show you this, but something very useful about this system here is that you can use this in conjunction with specific sector events, essentially. So, imagine you have got a sector that you want to create that, you know, it has a very specific station in it, but it's like a story piece that the players have never seen it before, and so it's like maybe a comm tower, a big comm tower that's been broken. You want them to go out and repair it, but then they get attacked. You don't want to define a specific sector for it. So what you can do is you can wait till, you know, you can be listening for the right sector, whatever the sector would be. So say it's sector 5. You would set this to be no, not that. You would set this to be sector 5, and then the first event you would do would be this, to generate yourself a random sector. You would perhaps limit the station numbers to be 0 because you don't want any other stations around, and you would maybe limit the ship number as well to be 0, and you would make sure there was absolutely no conflict. So it was a plain sector with no stations. And then after this event number, you would use the next event to then generate your content. So you would generate a station. Where are the stations? You would you would use this kind of thing to generate yourself the station, maybe with a specific designation or just a random designation, and then, or you could do it like this. You could create yourself a station like this, and then you would finish your sector. So that would be you with a random generated sector, except with a very specific station. And so that's very, you know, kind of powerful. Helps you spend more time planning what you want to do, rather than spending your time making spaces which are only going to be used once. And here you can see we have jumped into a new sector. Sorry, I keep interchanging those. A new sector. Again, after having reset the procedural information, and we have 1, 2, 3. Oh, come on. There are 1, 2, 3, and 4 ships. We have 3 stations because they were not defined. And this guy is now launching fighters at me. That's nice. But yeah, it's returned back to normal because I pushed the reset button. And if you ever want to as well on the fly just make a random sector, you can do it like this by pushing a random sector, and it should destroy everything apart from these guys apparently. I'll have to change that. That's interesting. Alright. And now we have a completely random sector, which is based on nothing, because I didn't put any information in at all. It gives me two... It's given me 2 planets. It's given me Scarans.